After I introduce our guest speaker, and after he completes his talk, we'll have the 50-50 raffle and also for the fishing rod. Michael Robert Mickey Morandini, born April 22nd, 1966. Second baseman and coach, played in the major leagues with the Phillies, the Cubs, and the Blue Jays. His career highlights include sections 95 National League All-Star, playing for the Phillies in the 93 National League Championship Series and World Series, and appearing for the Cubs in the 98 NL Division Series. Bats left, throws right, debuted on September 1, 1990. Last major league appearance was October 1st, 2000, for the Blue Jays. His major league debut was with the Phillies. He had a career of .268 batting average, 32 home runs, and 351 RBIs. All-Star in 95, and one of the 19 players in Major League Baseball to have an unassisted triple play. I present to you Mickey Morandini.
We got a rowdy bunch here tonight, huh? Especially this table right here, and that one too. So, honored to be here tonight. Thank you for having me. So you see all these professional baseball players and football players and basketball players, but you probably don't know the path they took to get to where they were. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to give you my path to the big leagues from the time I was a kid. Hopefully it interests you and have a few stories along the way. And I think at the end, if you guys have some questions, I'll be more than happy to answer some questions for you, all right? I'm a Pennsylvania boy. Grew up just north of Pittsburgh. My graduating class in high school was 94 students. So we're really small, obviously. We were a Class A school. But as a kid, I always loved basketball and baseball. Those were my two sports. I actually liked basketball a lot more than baseball when I was young. My father passed away when I was 4. So it was basically me, my mom, and my older brother, who was 7 years older. And I was fortunate enough to have an elementary school that was literally 100 yards from my house. And in between the house and the school was all grass. So as a young kid, after school, come home, walk home from school, I'd be home in 2 minutes, do my homework, grab my glove. I always had to have a ball in my hand when I was young. Basketball, baseball, football, it didn't matter. I had to have a ball in my hand. Now, you don't see that a lot nowadays with computers and video games and phones and all that, but I had to get outside with a ball. And I would go down to our elementary school, grab my glove and a tennis ball, and I would throw that ball against the brick wall. And I'd do 50 balls right at me, 50 balls forehand, 50 balls backhand. And if I missed one, and I was a kid here, I was 7, 8, 9 years old. If I missed one, I had to start over. And I did that every day. And then we had a one unattached car garage in our driveway. So you have the block cylinders, you have the garage door and a block cylinder. And I'd stand about 30 feet away, and we had a stone driveway. And if I missed to the right, we had a steep hill after that garage. I'd have to go chase the ball. So I didn't want to miss the garage. That was a pain. If I missed it to the left, I'd hit that garage door. Mom wasn't very happy with me if I did that. So I learned to hit that concrete block. It was probably about 12 inches wide. But the big thing is when it hit that wall and came back to me on stone, did some crazy things, and I would try and catch it. And I did that all the time. Now, a lot of people don't know this about me, but I ranked 14th all-time in major leagues in fielding percentage for a second baseman. And I go back to my childhood, throwing that ball off the brick wall, throwing that ball off the garage on a stone driveway, and I think that had a huge part in what kind of defensive player I was as an adult. So I know there's no kids in here right now, but when I talk to the young kids, I do bring that story up just to motivate them to get outside and get away from all the things that are inside. So I played Little League, just like everybody else. I was a pitcher and a shortstop. I actually wanted to be a center fielder when I was young. My all-time favorite player was Al Oliver, and I don't know if you guys remember Al Oliver. He played for the Pirates for most of his career. He was here in Philly one year. But I wanted to be a center fielder, but they made me a shortstop and a pitcher. So I played Little League like everyone else. I played Senior League back in the day. And then I got to high school. Now in high school, I was 145 pounds, 5'10". What's that? So I learned at an early age. I wasn't the fastest, although I was fast. I wasn't the strongest, didn't hit the ball the farthest, didn't throw it the hardest. But one thing I learned at an early age is you weren't going to outwork me. I never let anybody outwork me on the baseball field. And I think that's where I got to be a Major League Baseball player, is because of that hard work and that mentality. So in high school, I played baseball and basketball, my two favorite sports. I was the all-time leading scorer for my basketball high school, and I still own that record today. And I was a really good baseball player. I was one of those athletes that's just a little bit better than everybody else growing up. And my goal was to be a professional baseball player. I knew if I had a future, it wasn't going to be in basketball. I'm 5'10", but I could shoot a little bit. But I knew if I had a future in sports, it was going to be in baseball. So I went to tryouts. They had big league tryouts out of high school after your senior year. I went to a couple of tryouts, one in Pittsburgh, one in Cincinnati. And I saw the talent around me and did not get drafted out of high school. A little disappointing, but as I said, I was a 5'10", 145-pound high school kid. So, I had a lot of work to do. I had a lot of strength to get, things like that. So I got recruited by a lot of colleges to play baseball and basketball. Mostly small schools for basketball and baseball, but some bigger schools just for baseball. I got recruited by Indiana, Iowa, Penn State, a couple schools out west. Decided to go to Indiana University, Bloomington, Indiana. I went to play in the Big Ten. Bobby Knight, right? Bobby Knight. He was a big influence on me. I loved the way he coached, and I actually got to meet him. He was a good friend of Tony La Russa's back in the day. And when I was with the Cubs, he was in town visiting Tony, and I got to meet him in the other dugout, got a picture with him, so that was pretty cool. So I had college offers, like I said, went to Indiana University, and I knew I wanted to play baseball. That was my goal. When I got to college, like I said, I was 5'10", 145 pounds, started to lift weights for the first time in my life. And I gained about 25, 30 pounds in college, so I got up to about 175 pounds. But I had 3 really good years in college. First year I played third base. My last 3 years I played shortstop. And I started to notice after my junior year, scouts were starting to come out. That was a good thing. Scouts were coming out, they were watching me play. I was having good seasons, having good games. And after my junior year, I got invited to what they call the Intercontinental Cup. It was a tournament in Cuba, and it was prequel to the Olympics. And the coach of that team was Mark Marquis. He was the head coach at Stanford University, big-time baseball program then. And I went down to Cuba and played in this tournament against Japan and Cuba and a bunch of teams from the Dominican and Korea and things like that. And I played really well, led the team in hitting, led the team in hits, doubles, and runs scored. Made a pretty good impression on Coach Marquis because he was going to be the Olympic coach. So after that tournament, I got an invite to play in to try out for the Olympic team, 1988 Olympic team. It was a trial sport that year. In '84, if you remember, it was in LA. So I went back to college my senior year, had another good year. Got drafted by the Pittsburgh Pirates, my hometown team, the team I grew up rooting for. And I had to make my first really big decision other than what college I was going to go to. Do I go and try and fulfill my goal of being a professional baseball player? Huge decision for a young kid just coming out of college. So I decided you only get one chance to play for your country. So I went and tried out for the Olympic team, turned down the Pirates, and ended up going back to school my senior year and tried out for the Olympics after my senior year. Millington, Tennessee, brought in 50 college players. They were cutting it to 20. And I was fortunate enough to be one of those 20 players, and I got to play in the 1988 Olympics in Seoul, Korea. And the big thing was we won a gold medal that year. So I have an Olympic gold medal in my trophy case at home. So obviously that was pretty cool. Thank you. But during our tour of the United States, we toured the United States in a lot of minor league ballparks, and then we went to Italy, Japan, and then Seoul, Korea. So it was a heck of a run there for a young kid from a small town in Pittsburgh. But our coach, Mark Marquis, we played in Pennsylvania, Quakertown we played. And after that game, I'd been drafted by the Phillies. Phillies drafted me after my senior year. Yeah, that's right. They asked Coach Marquis, they asked him about me because I got drafted by the Phillies and we were playing in the area. And they said, what do you think about Morandini? And he said, you know, Mickey's a nice player. He may make it to the big leagues, but I don't think he'll ever be an everyday player. Now, when I talk to kids, I tell them, you have to figure out what motivates you. As a young athlete, you got to figure out what motivates you. Now, for most people as adults, I think it's money. At least for professional players, I think money motivates them. But there was three things that motivated me when I was young in college. One was winning. I would do anything to win a ball game. If I needed to bunt, if I needed to steal a base, if I needed to make a diving play, that's what I would do. I would do anything to win. I hated to lose. Secondly, fear of failure. I didn't like to fail. And you guys know here in Philadelphia, you fail, you know, yeah, you get some boos and sometimes you get some other things said to you. You know, when you strike out and you're coming back to the dugout, you're hearing some things. So I did not like to fail. I don't think anybody does, but that motivated me to succeed. And the third thing was when someone told me I couldn't do something, that was motivation for me. And when Mark Marquis said, I'll never be an everyday big league player, and I didn't need a lot of motivation back then, but that was kind of the icing on the cake. And I proved him wrong. I ended up being an everyday player for 8 years in the big leagues. I never got to see Coach Marquis to tell him how wrong he was, but I did appreciate him motivating me like that. So we win the gold medal in the Olympics, and now it's time for me to start my professional career. So I go to minor league spring training the following year. I start out in Spartanburg, South Carolina, low A ball. Had a really good start to my minor league season. I hit .338 in Spartanburg my first 2 months there. They moved me up to Clearwater, high A ball. I hit about .320 there for about 3 weeks. And they moved me up to Double A. When I got to Double A, I had about 2 months of baseball left. I hit .360 in Reading. So I had a really, really good first year in the minor leagues. Ended up winning the Paul Owens Award for Minor League Player of the Year. And, you know, that was pretty special. Because when you go to the minor leagues, you're competing against a lot of players from all over the place, and you really don't know where you stand. And for me to have a good first year like that, it was really, really huge. So I come out my second year in the minor leagues. They send me to Lehigh Valley, or not Lehigh Valley, Scranton, Pennsylvania. That's where their AAA was. But they decided I wasn't going to be a shortstop anymore. I played shortstop up through the minor leagues. They wanted me to play second base. They just didn't think my arm strength was going to play in the big leagues if I made it. So they said, will you be willing to play second base? I said, sure. Whatever's going to get me to the big leagues faster, that's what I'll do. So I had to learn second base in AAA. A little bit late to learn a new position, but I was willing to do that. So I had a pretty good year in Scranton. I hit about .265, .270, played really good defense, was starting to learn second base. And at the end of the year, they have September call-ups. And back then, you could advance or make the roster from 26 to 40. Now it's a little different. But the rumor was that I was not going to be called up. So I was preparing to go home, have a good off season, get stronger, get my mind straight, and be ready for the following year. So we had about 3 games left in Scranton. And we're taking BP, and one of the coaches comes out to me. I'm fielding ground balls, and he says the manager wants to see you in his office. I'm like, all right, why would the manager want to see me now? We got 3 games left, what's going on? So I go into his office. He sits me down. He says, Phillies just traded their second baseman, Tommy Herr. You're going to the big leagues, and you're starting the second game of a doubleheader tonight. Okay. So obviously, a lot of emotions going through me. Nervousness, anxiousness, excitement. Do I belong? That type of thing. So I get all my gear together, hop in my car, take that 2-hour drive to Philly. Driving off Broad Street, the lights are on, game 1's going on at the vet. Go into the clubhouse. Frank Kotenbarger, the clubhouse guy, gives me number 12. Put the uniform on, go down to the dugout, say hi to the guys, start watching the game. 7th inning comes around. Hey, Mickey, you're going to pinch hit. First game. Okay. So I grab we stunk that year, so there was about 5,000 people in this crowd. But we were playing the Padres, and Eric Shaw was the pitcher. And I just walked up to that plate and said, don't strike out. Just put the ball in play. Just put the ball in play. So I had a pretty good, all right, at least I put it in play. Game goes extra innings. I get his bat in the 10th inning, lead off the inning, get my first big league hit, base hit to right field off of Greg Harris. Next batter comes up, bunts me over. Johnny Kruk comes up, gets a base hit, drives me in. I score the winning run. So I went from playing in a AAA game. That was a pretty special day for me, one I'll never forget. So September wasn't very kind to me after that first big league hit. I was hitting a $149 with 2 games. Yeah, ooh, that's right. Yeah, try hitting 149 in Philadelphia. There's a lot of oohs. But I had 2 days left, 2 games left. I had to face Mike Bilecki on a Saturday in Philly and Greg Maddux on a Sunday. I'm hitting a $149. I went 2 for 4 off Bilecki. I went 4 for 4 off Maddux. I went from 149 to 250. So I look back at those 2 games. I mean, for my career, that was huge. Instead of going home hitting a $149 and thinking you don't belong in these big leagues, I'll tell you that. I ended up, hey, you got a chance to be a big 250 is anything to write home about, but it's a heck of a lot better than 149, I'll tell you that much. So that was a big off season for me. So I come back into spring training. Nick Leyva's the manager. And I knew nothing was going to be given to me. And as I said, I'll outwork you. I'm going to outwork you. Wally Backman and Randy Reddy were the other second basemen in camp. Nick Leyva calls us in and says, whoever hits the best in spring training, your job. You're going to the big leagues. All right. I hit 278. Backman and Reddy both hit under 200. He took Reddy and Backman and sent me back to AAA. Obviously, I was pissed. I was lied to another day in the minor leagues. So I spent 91, had a decent year, not great. 92, decent year, not great. And then 92, September 20th, I'm playing in Pittsburgh. Anybody know what happened that day? Yeah. Don't ever leave a game early, because you never know what's going to happen. So we're in the 7th inning, runners at first and second. Jeff King's the batter, Kurt Schilling's on the mound, no outs. Full count on the batter, runners going. Jeff King hits a line drive up the middle. I dive and catch it. Tramp on second, go to throw to first base, and Barry Bonds is standing right there tagging for the 3rd out. Unassisted triple play. Yeah. Now, at the time, I didn't realize the importance of it. Hey, we're in a tight ball game. I got 3 outs on 1 play. Let's go hit. But after the game, all the reporters came up to me, and I'm like, why are they coming up to me? I was 0 for 4, and I think 3 strikeouts. Why are they coming up to me? But they told me I was the 9th player to ever turn an unassisted triple play. There's only been 15. And I was the first second baseman to ever do it in the regular season. So obviously that was pretty cool. I have my jersey and the base in Cooperstown. I still have the glove to that triple play, which is also pretty cool. 93 comes around. We all know what happens in 93, right? One of the most beloved teams in the history of Philadelphia. You know, Lee Thomas did a great job that year. He could have went out and got some superstar and brought him in and tried to draw fans, but he went out and got veteran, big league, good baseball players. Danny Jackson, Pete Incaviglia, Milt Thompson, Jim Eisenreich, those types of guys. And every major publication that year had us coming in last place. And from day one, we were only out of first place one day that entire season. We really put it together. We stayed healthy. And I got a great little story from 93. So in July of 93, we were in first place, like I said, most of the year, but we went through a really bad stretch in July where our starting pitching was awful. And our starting pitching was really good. Every starter had at least 12 wins that year. But they went through a stretch in midsummer where they had a string of really bad starts, and our bullpen was way overused, was tired, needed a break. And all we needed was a starter to go out, pitch deep into the ballgame, and give our bullpen a blow. So Schilling's on the mound. We're on a road trip in Cincinnati, Old Riverfront Stadium. And at that ballpark, they shoot off fireworks when the home team hits a home run. So Kurt's getting beat up pretty good again. It's like 5-0 in the fourth, looking like we're going to have to get back into that bullpen. And Barry Larkin comes up and hits a home run. Fireworks go off. Next batter, Reggie Sanders. Man, that was fun. And it was loud. You think the CBP's loud during the playoffs? No, you should have been at the Vet in that enclosed atmosphere when we beat up on Atlanta and won some games against Toronto for the rest of that year. And then thought to myself, I got a couple more good years in me, and then I'm going to shut it down. I had 3 young kids. You know, we're getting a little tired of the traveling and things like that. So I came into spring training with Toronto in 2001, and my arm was hurting. And my arm never hurt, and it continued to hurt. So I had an MRI done and found out I had a torn rotator cuff and torn labrum. I had to make a decision. Do I have surgery and try and come back a year later and keep playing? Or do I just shut it down? I'm 34 years old. Go home, spend time with my kids and my family. Well, that was my decision. I shut it down, ended my big league career. And, you know, I look back on my career, small town kid from just north of Pittsburgh, weighed 145 pounds in high school. I ended up playing in the Olympics. I ended up turning an unassisted triple play. I ended up playing in the World Series. Played 11 years in the big leagues. Probably, you know, not too shabby for a kid that, like I said, grew up in a small town in Pittsburgh. So a career that I was very, very proud of. Thank you. So I spent the next 9 years with my kids and my family in Indiana. And then Ruben Amaro calls me, GM of the Phillies, and he says, if you ever want to get back in baseball, let me know. And at that point, I actually did want to get back in baseball, and I knew if I stayed out too much longer, I wouldn't know anybody in the game anymore. So he said, we have a spot open in Williamsport for a man left-handed pitching. Swing the bat. And that's the kind of teammate Darren was. He cared about his players. He cared about winning. He was the guy that if he went 0 for 4 and we won, he'd be happy as heck. And if he went 4 for 4 and we lost, he'd be miserable. And that's my definition of a team leader. And Darren was a tremendous, tremendous guy. We lost him way too early. Anybody else?
You said you played the game the right way. Could you elaborate on that? What do you mean?
Yeah, I mean, I think...
Difference is 2024.
Well, it's a different game now. When I played the game, you bunted guys over. You put the ball in play. Strikeouts meant something to us. We did not like to strike out. You make the plays defensively. You move the runners. You play smart baseball. That's what playing the game the right way is playing smart baseball, and that's what I did. If there was a runner on second, no outs, I'm going to bunt him to third and get him in scoring position. If there was a guy at third base with less than one out, I'm going to hit him in. Those types of things. If we were down 6 runs, I'm not swinging at the first pitch. I'm going to try and draw a walk. I need to get on base. I don't need to hit a home run. Those are the things I think we miss in today's game. Now, granted, the stolen base is coming back, but it's coming back because they made the bases bigger. I mean, I'm being realistic here. You don't hit and run anymore. You don't squeeze anymore. You don't move runners anymore. It's really about home runs. It really is. It's about the 3-run homer in today's game. And that's not baseball to me. I think the game got boring with walks, strikeouts, and home runs. And I think they're trying to put some excitement back in the game. That's why they're making all these rules changes. But that's what I mean when I say playing the game the right way. And playing it hard, running balls out, you know, those types of things. I think Bryce Harper plays the game the right way. And I think a lot of Phillies players do, actually. I think the Phillies are one of the teams that plays the game the right way, and I think they do that because they got pretty good leadership in that clubhouse. And if you don't play the game the right way, I think the Schwarbers and the Harpers and those types of guys are going to get on you. So this is a fun team to watch. I enjoy watching this team. They're going to be good again, as long as they can stay healthy. Anybody else? You know, I would assume he is. I mean, they win when he leads off. They win when he leads off, so you can't go... I mean, he really struggled when he struggles when he doesn't lead off. It's really weird. Like, you would think he'd hit 5th or 6th and hit 50 bombs and drive in 130 runs, but he's comfortable in that leadoff spot, and he gives them a spark. Nothing better than having your leadoff guy hit a leadoff home run, right? I mean, really, and get the team. And the other thing about a guy leading off, he leads off to start the game, and then he just gets thrown in the mix. He's not a leadoff hitter anymore. So he technically could come up in the 3rd, 6th, and 9th inning with the bases loaded, you know. So he's really only a leadoff hitter in the first at bat. So I would assume he's going to lead off. And I would assume Trey's going to hit second, Harp's going to hit third, and then we'll see how it goes from there. But that lineup's going to be really good. And the player we just signed in Merrifield, he's a good little player, and he can play multiple positions. He's probably going to play some left field, you know, 2 or 3 times a week, and then they can play him at second a day in a week. He'll probably get 5 starts a week somewhere. I mean, I think he's a 3-time All-Star, so he's going to be a good addition for this team.
Who was the worst pitcher that you hated to bat against?
Hated to face? Well, the one that really, really scared me was Randy Johnson. So I didn't really ever play against Randy, and that didn't bother me one bit. But I'm playing in Chicago, and I'm not starting. Randy's on the mound. This is his Cy Young Award year in Arizona, one of his Cy Young Award years. And our third baseman gets sick, and I'm thinking to myself, well, I'm not going into the game. Well, they moved the second baseman to third and put me in at second. So I got to face Randy in the 7th inning. First time ever faced him. Now he's 6'11", he's got hair down to here, he's ugly as hell, and he's got a reach of his arm where when he lets go of that ball, he's like 50 feet from home. Can I get a water? Not a beer, a water. Nice try.
Oh, you want a Coors Light?
I do like Coors Light. So, I'm all right. So I'm facing Randy for the first time. He throws me 3 fastballs, 97 miles an hour, on the outside black, strike 1, strike 2, strike 3. I didn't swing. I'm telling you, he's tough to hit. So this is how dumb pitchers are. I got to face him again in the 9th inning. And instead of him throwing me those same 3 fastballs, he tried to trick me on the first pitch with a slider. So they're playing me way to hit the ball the other way. There's no way I'm going to pull Randy Johnson. Thank you. So he throws me a slider and he hangs it, and I pull it down the right field line for a triple. That's how dumb. He's a Hall of Fame pitcher, right? But that was kind of stupid of me because the next week we play Arizona, they come to Chicago, and guess who's in the starting lineup when Randy Johnson's pitching? Me, because I got a triple off him in Arizona. So I had to face him 3 more times, but he was scary. I didn't face him a lot, but he was scary. I mean, I faced some really good pitchers. Clemens, Maddox, Smoltz, Pedro Martinez. I mean, I faced Glavine, a lot of Hall of Famers, a lot of really good pitchers. And I actually would rather hit a 96-mile-an-hour fastball than hit a golf ball, to be honest with you. So, but yeah, I always liked that challenge of facing someone that threw hard, and I was a good fastball hitter. I would rather hit someone that threw hard than someone that threw junk. I could hit a fastball. Well, it started out about a 50, but it's down to a 9. See, when you play 110 times a year, you get better. So I have gotten better. It's weird because I'm left-handed and I cannot hit a golf ball left-handed. So I taught myself right-handed. So I got myself down to a 9 right-handed. So that's pretty good. My real name's Michael. It's just a nickname. And it was not after Mickey Mantle. Yeah, I know. So, but Mickey always stuck. Yes, sir. Yeah, but I can't say him over here. But I will say this, in '93, he deserved the MVP that year. Nobody was more focused. He wanted to make money. He wanted to make as much money as he could. He was one of those players that what drove him was money. But in '93, there was not a more focused player than Lenny Dykstra. I hit after him a lot. He'd lead off, I'd hit second. And he'd be in that on-deck circle, and he would look at me and he'd go, first at bat, he'd go, I'm going to work this count to 3 and 2, and then I'm going to take this guy deep. And he literally would do it. That's how focused he was that year. So he was a tremendous ball player. He just couldn't stay healthy. You know, if he could have stayed healthy, he probably could have been a Hall of Fame player. I don't know if you knew this about Lenny, but recently he just had a stroke out in California. But I believe he's doing okay. I think he's back home. But say your prayers for Lenny. Anybody else? All right, well, thank you for having me here tonight. It's been a blast.